I used to believe that phones couldn't really hurt you. That the worst thing a late night call could bring was bad news, or maybe some drunk friend asking for a ride. I don't believe that anymore. It started on a cold night in November. I remember because the first frost had settled over the streets, and I was driving home from a late shift. My phone buzzed in the cup holder, screen glowing with a name I hadn't seen in months, Ethan. He'd been my best friend since middle school. The guy who'd sit up all night playing horror games with me, who'd cover for me when I snuck out, who swore we'd always have each other's backs. But things changed after high school. He'd taken a different path, heavier crowd, heavier habits. We still talk sometimes, but not like before. So seeing his name lit up on my phone that night made my chest tighten. I answered, expecting his usual half-slurred rambling, some wild story about whatever mess he was in. But this time, his voice was sharp, urgent. "Help me!
It's here."
That was it. 4 words. Then static. Then nothing. I called back 3 times, no answer. By the 4th, it went straight to voicemail. My gut twisted. Ethan wasn't the type to prank me. If anything, he hated looking vulnerable. For him to call me like that, I knew it was serious. I turned the car around and headed for his place. It was about 20 minutes away, out near the edge of town. The whole drive, my brain played tricks on me. Every shadow on the road looked like someone standing there. Every car that passed felt like it was watching me. I kept hearing his voice in my head.
"Help me. It's here."
When I turned onto his street, the glow hit me before I even saw the house. Orange against the sky. Smoke rolling upward. Ethan's house was on fire. By the time I pulled up, fire trucks were already there. Neighbors stood on lawns, whispering, pointing. Flames gutted the roof, devouring the walls. I stumbled out of the car, shouting his name, but a firefighter stopped me.
"Stay back,"
he barked. I kept saying my friend was inside. He just shook his head grimly. Later, I'd learned that Ethan's body had already been found. That he hadn't made it out. The official report called it accidental, faulty wiring, maybe a space heater left too close to something flammable. But none of that mattered to me in that moment. The only thing that mattered was that my best friend had called me minutes before dying, and I hadn't made it in time. I barely remembered the days that followed. Guilt has a way of blurring everything, making time slip through your fingers. I went to the service. I stood with his family. I nodded when people said, "He's in a better place." But all I could hear, over and over, was his voice in my ear. "Help me. It's here." Then, a week later, I got the voicemail. It showed up late at night. No missed call attached to it, just a notification that I had one new message. The timestamp read the night of the fire. With shaking hands, I pressed play. At first, it was just static. Harsh, broken, like wind rushing through a tunnel. I almost deleted it, thinking it was corrupted. But then, under the static, I heard it. Ethan's voice. Not panicked. Not screaming. Calm. Too calm. He whispered my name. Over and over. Drawn out, deliberate, like he knew I'd be listening later. And in the background, beneath his voice, was something else. A low hum. Almost a growl. Like someone, or something, was breathing against the microphone. My stomach nodded. I slammed the phone down on the table, but the message kept playing, his voice growing softer, fading into the static until only the hum remained. Then silence. I sat there for hours, staring at the phone, waiting for it to ring again. It never did. I saved the voicemail, but I can't bring myself to play it again. Once was enough. The fire took his body, but his voice, it stayed with me, waiting on the other end of the line. I've lived 30 years, and I still replay one night over and over like a broken tape. It's the night I should have gotten off the couch. The night I should have been the brother she needed me to be. Because if I had, my sister might still be alive. Or at least, not whatever she is now. We weren't the closest siblings growing up, but we weren't enemies either. I was 5 years older, always the one tasked with looking out for her when Mom and Dad were busy. She was wild, restless, always pushing limits, sneaking out, chasing excitement in a town that didn't have much to offer. I was the opposite, cautious, responsible, maybe too much so. The one who'd drive to pick her up from parties, lecture her afterward, but never tell our parents everything. By the summer she turned 17, she wanted freedom more than anything. She hated being told what to do, hated curfews, hated the small-town gossip that made every mistake into a scandal. She used to joke that she'd disappear the day she graduated and never look back. That July, she begged Mom to let her go to a friend's bonfire on the edge of town. Mom hesitated, but finally agreed, with one condition.
Your brother picks you up before midnight. No excuses.
I groaned but agreed. It wasn't unusual. I'd been the chauffeur for years. The night started like any other. I was at my apartment, exhausted after a double shift, sprawled on the couch in front of the TV. Around 11:30 my phone buzzed. Her text was short.
Hey, can you come now?
I rubbed my eyes, debating. I was half asleep, the TV murmuring in the background. I typed back. Give me 20. Just hang tight. You'll be fine. Almost immediately, she replied.
Please. It's weird here. Just hurry.
That word, weird. She always used it when she wanted me to rush. Weird neighbors. Weird shadows. Weird feeling. I sighed, convinced she was being dramatic. I didn't want to drag myself off the couch just yet. So I told myself it was safe. Small town. Bonfire. What could happen? I closed my eyes. Just for a minute. When I woke, it was 12:05. Panic jolted me upright. I grabbed my keys, barely locked the door, and sped through empty streets, headlights carving tunnels of light through the dark. The bonfire site was nothing but glowing embers when I arrived. Her friends were gone. And so was she. I called her phone. Straight to voicemail. I texted again and again. No reply. I drove circles around the block, down back roads, through alleys. Nothing. By 1 a.m., dread had set in. I told myself maybe she'd gotten a ride home with someone else. Maybe she was mad I was late. Maybe. The next morning, Mom called, her voice shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone.
She never came home.
The days after blurred. Police came. Posters went up. Friends were questioned. I retraced her last known steps, desperate for any lead. Her friends swore she'd been waiting for me by the road. That she looked nervous. That she'd even said,
He's coming to get me.
But by the time I arrived, she was gone. Then the calls began. A week later, the house phone rang at midnight. My parents answered first, then handed it to me, faces pale. The voice on the other end was wrong. Distorted, metallic, like it came through a broken speaker. It said her name. Then it said mine. I whispered, "Where is she?" My hand shook so badly I nearly dropped the phone. Static filled the line. Then one word. Pay. That became the pattern. Calls at night. Demands for money. Numbers impossibly high. When we asked for proof, sometimes we got it. Recordings of her crying. Once, a whispered, broken, "Please!" Another time, just her breathing, shaky and uneven, like she'd been running. My parents scraped together what they could. They sold heirlooms, drained accounts, begged relatives. It was never enough. Every time we thought we had close to the sum, the voice doubled it, taunted us, laughed with that crackling, inhuman distortion. The police traced what they could. Burners. Abandoned lines. Dead ends. They called it extortion. I called it hell. Then the calls stopped. Weeks of silence followed. We tried to live with it. Tried to grieve. But grief doesn't settle when there's no body, no closure. Just a gaping hole where your sister used to be. Months later, my phone rang again. This time, directly to me. I nearly dropped it when I saw the number, unknown caller. I answered. Static. Then, her voice. Small. Broken.
Please, come get me.
I shouted into the phone, begged her to tell me where. But the line dissolved into static again. The second time it rang, weeks later, I almost didn't answer. When I did, the voice was calm. Cold. Not hers.
You told her to wait.
I've never forgotten those words. Because they were true. I told her to wait. To be patient. To be fine. And she wasn't. We never saw her again. Never found her. The police filed it away as a likely abduction. But that doesn't explain the calls. Doesn't explain how they knew what I'd texted. Now, years later, sometimes the phone still rings. Always late. Always unknown caller. I answer, even though I shouldn't. The last time, I heard breathing. And then, softly, her voice again.
You were late.
And then the line went dead. That's what I live with. Not just the guilt. Not just the loss. But the knowledge that she's still out there. Somewhere. Waiting. It's amazing how one decision, one moment of laziness, can ruin your life. People always talk about regret like it's tied to big choices. The school you picked, the person you didn't marry, the job you quit. But the regret that's killing me isn't about anything like that. It's about a text. A single message I didn't answer. That night was nothing special. I was lying in bed, scrolling through my phone like I always do, half watching some dumb video, half drifting towards sleep. My girlfriend, Claire, had gone to stay with her sister for the week. They rented a little house out by the woods, about an hour outside the city. Claire loved places like that, quiet, isolated, where you could hear yourself think. I hated it. Too far from neighbors, too easy to feel like the dark was swallowing you. But she always said,
"That's the point."
We texted a few times that evening. She sent me a picture of her wine glass and her feet propped up by the fireplace. I sent her a meme, something stupid I don't even remember now. She laughed at it, sent back a heart. That was around 10 o'clock. By midnight, I was half asleep, my phone dim in my hand, when it buzzed again. One new message. Are you up? That's it. Nothing else. I stared at it. My thumb hovered over the screen. Part of me almost typed back, "Yeah, what's up?" But my eyes were burning, and I thought, she's probably just bored. Maybe she wants to talk, but I'll see her tomorrow anyway. It can wait. I set the phone on the nightstand, rolled over, and went to sleep. When I woke up, Claire was dead. The first call I got wasn't even from her family. It was from the police. They asked if I knew Claire, if I was her boyfriend, and then they told me about the break-in. About how her sister had found her early that morning. About how it was already too late. I don't remember much after that. Just the sound of my own heartbeat in my ears, the taste of bile in my throat, and the message still glowing on my phone screen. Are you up? That's the regret. That's the knife that never stops twisting. I could have answered. I could have called her, Maybe I would have scared someone off. Maybe I would have heard something in the background, a window breaking, footsteps, and gotten help. Or maybe not. But I'll never know. Because I didn't answer. For days, I couldn't stop staring at the screen, reading and rereading those 3 words until they stopped looking like English at all. But then I noticed something else. Something worse. Underneath her message, in tiny gray letters, was a read receipt. Read, 12:37 a.m. Claire had opened my last message. Just a dumb meme I'd sent her hours before. She saw that. She saw me trying to make her laugh. And then, minutes later, she asked if I was awake. Those are her last words to me. Not, "I love you." Not, "I'm scared." Just, "Are you up?" And I never replied. The police asked me all the usual questions. Did she call you? Did she message you? Did she say anything about someone watching her, someone following her? I shook my head. I lied. Because I couldn't bring myself to tell them about that text. Because if I said it out loud, it would make it real. But then things got worse. The night after she died, her phone posted a photo. Not to a burner account, not hacked, her actual profile. A grainy, dark picture. At first I thought it was nothing, just static or maybe an accident. But then I realized what I was looking at. It was Claire's bedroom. The photo had been taken from the foot of her bed. She was in it, curled up, asleep, her face barely visible in the light of the digital clock on the nightstand. And behind her, in the corner of the frame, was a shape. Too tall, too still. Watching. It posted at 3:12 a.m. Hours after she was dead. And before I could even screenshot it, the post vanished. Deleted. But I saw it. I know what I saw. The next day, I went to her funeral, but I couldn't look anyone in the eye. Her parents thought I was just grieving, but I knew the truth. I wasn't mourning her death. I was mourning my failure. And then, the messages started. The first came 3 nights later. My phone buzzed at 12:37 a.m., the exact time her read receipt had shown. The message was blank. Just a bubble. But the sender was her number. I froze. Stared at it until my eyes blurred. Then another one.
Why didn't you answer?
I dropped the phone. When I picked it up, the message was gone. Erased. No record of it in my inbox, nothing in my logs. Just like the photo. This happened again. Once a week, always after midnight. Sometimes it was just bubbles, the typing indicator that never ended, like someone trying to write but never hitting send. Other times it was words. Always short. Always cruel. You let me die. It was right behind me. Look outside. Every time I looked, there was nothing. Just the shadows stretching too long under the streetlights. Just silence. I stopped sleeping. I stopped eating. I couldn't. My whole life narrowed to that one moment, the second I didn't answer. My friends tried to pull me out of it. They said it was a hacker, or some sick prank. That grief was making me see things. But they didn't see what I saw. Because last week, I got one final message. A photo. Claire again, lying in her bed. But this time, it wasn't her room. It was mine. She was curled on my mattress, under my blanket, her phone glowing in her hand, her eyes staring wide and black at the camera. And behind her, in the corner of the frame, was me. Asleep. Her last words to me weren't spoken. They were a bubble on a screen I can never answer back. And now, every night, my phone buzzes at 12:37. I never check anymore. Because I know if I do, the next photo won't be me sleeping. It'll be me awake. When you're a teenager, you think nothing can touch you. No rule, no warning, no creepy story told by old locals. It's all just background noise until the night you realize too late that some places don't need people to believe in them to stay alive. For us, that place was the old farmhouse. It sat out past the railroad tracks, where the road turned to gravel and the fields gave way to crooked trees. The house had been there for as long as anyone could remember, leaning into itself like it was tired of standing. Its windows were black holes, its porch sagged like a broken jaw, and the barn beside it had collapsed years ago. Everyone in our town knew it was haunted. Everyone had a story about it. A farmer who murdered his family, a drifter who hanged himself in the rafters, kids who went in on a dare and never came back. We didn't believe any of it. We were 16, restless, and bored. Halloween was still weeks away, but someone suggested a house party in the farmhouse basement. The plan wasn't even to drink or smoke, it was just to prove we weren't scared. To prove we were braver than the generation before us. And I was stupid enough to go along with it. There were 6 of us, me, my best friend Ryan, 2 girls from school, and a couple of kids who'd brought flashlights and cheap speakers for music. We parked down the dirt road, our headlights cutting through the weeds, and for a second I swear I saw movement in the upstairs window. A shape pulling back into the dark. Ryan laughed when I said it. Yeah, right. Probably the farmer's ghost changing the curtains. Inside, the air was thick with rot. The floorboards groaned under our weight, dust exploding into the beams of our lights. The wallpaper peeled in strips like dead skin. And the basement door was already open, yawning into a stairwell of pure black. We went down. The air grew colder the deeper we descended, heavy with the smell of mildew and earth. The basement was huge, dirt floor, stone walls, ceiling beams that dripped condensation like sweat. Someone set up the speaker, blasting teeny music that only made the emptiness worse. The girls spread out blankets, the others cracked jokes, and for a while, it almost felt normal. Like maybe it was just a house after all. Then Ryan found the trapdoor. It was half buried under a pile of rotted boards, rusted hinges poking out like bones. He laughed, kicked the debris aside, and yanked it open. A hole in the earth, lined with rough wood, leading deeper underground. The smell that poured out was like wet metal and old blood. Everyone gagged. Everyone said no. But Ryan grinned. Bet none of you will go down there, he said. And then he did. I remember the sound of his shoes scraping the ladder, his flashlight beam bouncing against the dirt walls until it disappeared. Silence swallowed us. Then a single sound rose from below, Ryan laughing. You guys are wimps, he called up. It's just another room. The laugh cut short. What followed wasn't a scream. It was a gasp, sharp and wet, like something had grabbed the air out of his lungs. His flashlight clattered against stone. And then, nothing. We shouted his name. We shined our lights down into the hole. The beam caught the ladder, the dirt walls, the floor maybe 10 feet down. But no Ryan. Not his shoes. Not his light. Nothing. Panic hit all at once. One of the girls bolted upstairs. The others shouted, argued, said it was a prank. I wanted to believe that too, but my stomach told me otherwise. We stayed down there for almost half an hour, calling his name into the hole, daring each other to climb down, until the silence broke us. We left him there. The police searched for weeks. Dogs, divers, even ground-penetrating radar. They found no tunnel, no hidden room, no sign of Ryan at all. The trapdoor was gone when they returned. Just packed dirt. Like it had never existed. For years after, I couldn't talk about it. I couldn't even drive down that road without my chest tightening. His parents moved away. People stopped telling stories about the farmhouse. They didn't need to anymore. Everyone knew what had happened. Everyone knew one of us never came back. But that wasn't the end. 5 years later, on the anniversary of that night, I was driving home from work, the road empty, the fields swallowed in mist. I passed the farmhouse without meaning to look. But I did. And I saw them. Not just in the windows, not just one or two. Hundreds. Lining the driveway, the porch, the path to the basement. Flickering in rows, stretching out like breadcrumbs leading to the door. And the awful part? They weren't placed like a memorial. They were too neat, too deliberate. Like someone had set them out for guests. Like children laying lanterns to guide the way home. I slammed the gas, hard hammering, refusing to look in the rearview. But the glow followed me in the mirrors, 100 flames burning in the night until the farmhouse was gone behind the trees. I haven't gone back. I never will. But sometimes, late at night, when I'm driving down some other empty road, I see the faint flicker of candles on the horizon. And I wonder if they're waiting for me. If they'll keep lining the roads until one day. I can't resist the pull. Because the farmhouse doesn't need stories anymore. It tells its own now, with candles that never burn out.